Hi, this is Alexplainow. This time I'll explain the Zaku F2 Federation type. The Zaku F2 Federation type could have been a lot more popular within the Federation if the UC-80s was not so troubled by mono-eye mobile suits. Zaku II F2, model number MS-06 F-2, was formally adopted by the Federation Force as a supplementary mobile suit after the end of the One-Year War. While the Federation Force did use captured Zakus during the war, and even modify and copy Zakus to learn about mobile suit production and operation, the Federation Force preferred their own V-Project mobile suit for various reasons. But the primary and most important reason is visual. With Minovsky particles interrupting the majority of low-frequency, low-power electromagnetic radiation communication systems, visuals have become the main format for friendfold identification. It was okay back when Federation had little to no mobile suits, as those Zakus would cause more confusion to Zeon than themselves. However, with Federation's own mobile suits running around, having to identify a few odd Zakus were rather risky. In fact, one of the most common modifications Federation have done with the captured Zakus was to make their head more GM-like for the ease of identification. However, of them mattered a lot less after the war, at least from the Federation government's perspective. For the Federation government, they needed all the budget they can have to rebuild the war-torn Earth Circle. Sci-free, along with resource asteroid and industrial colonies occupied by Zeon, were back to the Federation's fold. Most of them anyways. So for the Federation government, reintegrating the former Zeon military complex were more important than minor inconvenience on the battlefield. Not only would this reduce military spending by having a portion of the Federation force supplied with former Zeon military stockpile, it also allowed a lot of former military industry personnel to keep their jobs, preventing them from supporting Zeon remnants, directly at least. The Federation government even sent former Zeon soldiers to these industries, hoping making it easier for them to return to the civilian world and watch over them along with other potential hidden Zeon supporters. For the Federation force, having to make do with surrendered Zeon stockpile and industry supply chain was a lot more preferable than leaving them to the Pyfrac sector or even Zeon remnants. Federation force also concluded that former Zeon territory would be a lot less agitated when their guardians are familiar Scorpions. Federation force, while was no longer separated into ground force and space force like they did during the One-Year War, still have colony garrison force, functioning like Coast Guard around nearby space and colonies themselves. Incorporating Zeon Mobile Suit into their inventory was no easy task, given Federation had very different format of mobile suits. Luckily, Zeon had initiated the maintenance unification project before their surrender, so the Federation force pretty much just had to make way for the Zeon type mobile suit, and they can run on their own logistic chain instead of having to be reorganized and evaluated on a model-by-model basis. In fact, the Federation didn't even bother to give the Zaku II F2 a new designation, since not having a R prefix makes the Zeon mobile suit easily identifiable for logistics. On top of that, the Federation force's mission has once again shifted from engaging major military challenger to counterinsurgency. That means most of Federation force units would be in low conflict if not no conflict areas. So using Zeon Mobile Suit to handle those areas will allow the Federation force to focus their resources into rapid response fleets to handle Zeon remnants. Out of all Zeon Mobile Suits that Federation adopted, Zaku II F2 is the most numerous and popular. This was mostly because Zaku II was the most numerous mobile suit Zeon had produced, and the F-2 type is the specification made following the maintenance unification project. So when the Federation adopted the Zaku II, they either build them as F-2 standard or upgrade older variants to F-2 standard for ease of maintenance. Another reason is that Zaku II is relatively easy to pilot, partly due to their moderate performance even by 1-year war standard, partly due to it being figured out by Zeon pilots and mechanics well before the 1-year war started. This means Federation units can give their inexperienced pilots, especially for new recruits, a Zaku II F2 without worrying too much. Depending on the unit's preference, they may replace the cockpit with a Federation type like those on GMs. However, it was not a monetary procedure, at least in early UC-80s. Last but not least, the F2 standard Zaku II is an all-terrain type mobile suit, which means it needs little to no adjustment to be used on Earth or space, unlike the majority of other Zaku variants. However, this still left the Zaku II F2 very much a Zaku, which means if there are Zeon remnants with their Zakus showing up near them, it could still be problematic for visual identification. The solution was simple. Since Zeon remnants stick with their Zeon painting scheme for their mobile suit most of the time, the Federation just need to give their Zaku II F2 a nice coat of bone white paint, a color scheme adopted by a lot of garrison units on colonies and ground bases alike. And now let's take a closer look at the Zaku II F2 to see what makes it more attractive to other Zaku II variants for the Federation. Starting from the head, it is definitely a Zaku II, not much has changed. There are often applique armor applied on the Zaku II F2's head compared to regular F-type, but they are often done by unit mechanics as hotfix rather than a regular practice from Federation or a particular branch. Thanks to the maintenance unification project, the internals got some slight upgrades. Not that Zaku II's main optic sensor, allowed the mono eye, is bad to begin with. The chest is where you can see most difference straight away. The chest is clearly larger, mostly done to increase armor thickness to improve pilot survivability, but also to increase internal volume to fit a better cooling system, improves the reliability and adaptability of the F2, allowing the Zaku F2 architecture to be truly all-terrain without high maintenance like S-type variants. The skirts are where the least changes are made, but you can still see a large crotch to house a larger, more powerful counter thruster, making the F2 more agile. The legs have some changes too. Externally, the F2's legs are pretty much the same as F-type with slightly thicker armor, but the rear RPG motors are combined into one on the outward, partially done to improve fuel efficiency, but also done to allow more room in the lower legs to incorporate some J-type absorbers to improve ground combat effectiveness. Coming back to the arms, the shoulders look pretty much the same, but the arms are actually new designs made under the maintenance unification project, made to be a new base type that can be adapted for Zaku, Goof, and Dom, or even built into Gang and Jugok arms with extra parts. This new arm design has better durability and a higher performance ceiling, once again gives the F2 an edge over older variants. The shield and the spike shoulder pads are newly designed for maintenance unification project as well, but mostly done to reduce production costs and complexity. Zaku II F2's arsenal is pretty much the same as Zaku II's. A Hit-Hawk, a Zaku bazooka, a Zaku machine gun, and a 90mm machine gun. The 90mm machine gun is a new addition, although it is not a Federation weapon, but rather a Zeon late war weapon. As mobile suits shift from fighting spaceships, space jets, and other traditional armored vehicles to mobile suit or mobile suit fighting. This means armor penetration and volume of fire is more important like infantry combat. Thus, Zeon and Federation converged their mass production mobile suit main arm into the 90mm machine gun. The Zeon design is very much like infantry weapon like their other weapons. It also features an underbarrel grenade launcher, a feature that we also see on the Zaku machine gun on the F-2. This was a late addition in the One-Year War, again Zeon adapting infantry tactics to mobile suit on mobile suit combat. The Zaku machine gun's movable grip is moved to the side to make room for the grenade launcher, and the stock is improved to include recoil damper. While this late type Zaku machine gun or the 90mm machine gun is not used by every Zaku II F2, but they are usually armed with either or both, since both machine guns have their specialty. The Zaku bazooka is a standard affair, mostly because they are semi-consumables. The Federation prefers to have extra weapons that can be carried by the Zaku II F2 instead of coming up with a new rack to carry Federation types. The Hithawk once again is the same old Hithawk used by Zakus. Again, the Federation rather to have weapons that their Zaku II F2 can use than coming up with a new way to enable them to use beam sabers. Like I have explained on top of the video, the Federation viewed the Zaku II F2 as a supplementary mobile suit, so the Federation did not invest into them too much since it was plenty enough in relatively peaceful post-One-Year War Earth circle. After all, mobile suits are superior to most traditional armed vehicles, and the Federation still maintained and continued their own mobile suit development. All Zaku II F2 had to do was to show the presence of the Federation force and dispatch low-level threats. Interestingly, when the Dallas fleet rallied Zeon remnants for Operation Stardust, Zaku II F2 can be seen fighting for Federation and Zeon, or even each other. After the Dallas fleet and Operation Stardust was stopped, the Federation did not abandon Zeon Mobile Suits. In fact, that led to a new wave of Zeon remnants to surrender, and some of them even got incorporated into the Federation force. The Federation was further motivated to integrate Zeon military industry with their own, but that is a story better told with those mobile suits. Zaku II F2 remained in Federation service until more war had happened and led to the Federation force abandoning the Cyclopean motif, although a few of them were still in use with a GM-style head or visor like the old days. Some of them were surplus to the civilian market as mobile worker or private securities or even personal collection. Thanks for watching.